I'd like to take a moment to share with you a very interesting conversation that I had with a new client. It's my hope that what I shared with her is a help to you the way it was to her. She is 37 years old. She has been separated for 6 months. She's the mother of one daughter and a stepmom to one son that she proudly owns as one of her own. She said to me, Doc, I'm coming to you because after 9 years of marriage, we are separated. We've been separated for 6 months. Because of my husband's infidelity. He has cheated twice. And this final time when he cheated, she decided to leave the marriage, though he has stated to her that he wants to work things out. I said, okay. She said, I'm coming to you, though, because number one, he's still seeing someone. I said, how do you know? She said, well, I hired a private investigator, and that private investigator gave me hardcore facts, evidence, video, the whole nine, that he's still entertaining someone when he's supposed to be at work, all of those things. So number one, he's still involved with someone, and she believes it is one of the women that he's cheated on with in the past. She said, but my real issue, Doc, is whether or not I should start dating before the divorce period ends. She said, and that probably sounds strange considering he's cheating. You would think that because he's already dating and he's already, he's cheated and done those things, that I should be just free to move on. She said, and there's a part of me that feels like I have every right in the world to move on. I said, I understand that. I said, so why do you feel like you can't move on? And I said, I'm not, I told her in the beginning, I said, I'm not saying whether or not it's right or wrong in my opinion. I said, but why do you think that? She said, well, frankly, I have no interest in being with him. I don't want to be with him again at all. After the first time, I was very hurt. After the first time he cheated, I was very hurt, but I was very much willing to put in the work for us to stay together. We went to couples counseling and therapy. Things seemed to be okay for a year or two, and then he reverted back into other behaviors that led to me catching him cheating again. And she said, Doc, I feel like I've done my part. I've given him a chance. He did not take advantage of that chance. And, so I no longer have an interest in being with him. I said, so what's the problem with moving on? She said, well, it's not necessarily a problem with moving on post the divorce. She said, but while we're separated, I find myself still getting upset over his behavior. I said, in what way? She said, well, I know he's seeing another woman. I know he's still lying and he doesn't have to because, we're separated. We separated with the intent of moving forward with the divorce, though he says to me he still wants to be with me. She said, it's smoke and mirrors. I have all the evidence, but it still bothers me knowing that he's out here seeing another woman. I said, well, that's very honest of you to admit. And I said to her, I said, how long, do you all have to be separated before the divorce? Well, in the state that they're in, they have to be separated for a year before the divorce is final. I said, even with infidelity or anything like that? She said, yes, sir. I said, okay, well, so you've got 6 more months to go. And I said, your logical self is saying to you, yeah, you can go date just like he's dating and has moved on. But your mental and emotional you is still connected to him. Is that correct? She said, I think that's fair because his behavior still bothers me. I said, ma'am, several months ago, I was doing some remodeling and working on some things in my house. And one of the parts of my remodel was getting rid of this table that I had on a carpet in my living room. And I had that table, a very heavy, heavy table on that carpet for years, many years, 6, 7 years. And when I went to move the table, just as you would move anything that's been stuck on a carpet in one space for many years, I noticed that when I looked down that there were 4 prints. The table has 4 legs. And these were very deep carpet prints. So much so that I reached down to try to see if I could rub them out. And it just wasn't working. And I've got a buddy who does interior design. She's really good at doing interior design. And I reached out to her and I said, hey, what's one way I can get these prints out of my carpet? She said, Doc, there's really only 1 or 2 ways. Either 1, you can pull the carpet up, or 2, you have to wait. She said, because the prints are so deep in the carpet that even if you move the table and the table goes to another place, There's still an imprint from how long that table has been in that spot. She put her head down, began to nod. You could see a tear coming. I said, ma'am, I don't want you to get upset. I said, but I want you to hear me. You saw the tears starting to stream. She opened her eyes. She wiped her eyes. I said, ma'am, here's the unpopular truth. The fact of the matter is, separated means you're still married. And I said, I know there is this popular narrative out here that says, hey, if I'm separated, I can date, I can go out, I can do all of these things, especially if my partner is already doing it or my spouse is already doing it. They've already moved on. They already have a girlfriend. They already have a boyfriend. So I can move on and do the same thing. But I'm here to tell you, man, even if you no longer desire to be with your husband, the fact of the matter is, because his behaviors still impact you mentally and emotionally, that is proof that the marriage has left a dent in the carpet. She said, that makes perfect sense. I said, exactly. I said, that explains why you feel some kind of way. Though you feel like you logically have a right to move on because he's cheated and he's still doing his thing, you feel like logically you have a right to move on. The question is, are you really ready to move on? I said, ma'am, I'm going to say this to you. I said, it is, again, a very unpopular truth, because if you just look in popular culture today, people will tell you, yeah, I'm separated. That means I can go out here and date. And I've been separated for 3 months and now I've got somebody I'm talking to and I'm moving on and my spouse has moved on. I know that's a popular narrative. I said, but ma'am, I want you to know that if you are mentally and emotionally impacted by the behavior of your spouse, even if you're separated with the intent to divorce, the wisest thing you can do is wait at least until that separation period is over. You could tell she didn't like the answer. She put her head down. She put her hand over her face. She said, Doc, I hear you. She said, it's just so hard, but I just don't know what I should do now. I said, let me tell you what you should do now. What you should do now is go slow. I said, ma'am, slow is the new fast. I don't care what you see on social media. Slow is the new fast, especially when it comes to getting over breakups. I said, I don't have this in a textbook anywhere. I said, but a general rule of thumb for advice that I've given to couples that have gone through divorces or breakups is that for every year you've had with a person, you need at minimum 2 to 4 years to grieve them. For every 1 year you've had with a person, you need 2 to 4 years to grieve them at minimum. I said, ma'am, you've been with your husband for 9 years. If you take the low number, 9 times 2, that's 18 months. That is a year and a half to grieve a 9-year marriage. Do you think that's reasonable? She shook her head. She started getting upset. Tears were coming down her face. Her mouth was trembling. I said, ma'am, I'm not trying to hurt you. I said, but answer the question. Do you think that's reasonable? She said, Doc, I'm not saying you're wrong. It is reasonable. It just hurts. Why do I have to wait when he's moved on? I said, because, ma'am, when the table was moved from his carpet, it didn't leave a print. He's gone on about his business. I said, but ma'am, when you removed him from your carpet, it left a print. And so though you don't want that table anymore and that table has gone on to another house or another owner, the fact of the matter is 9 years of that table being in your life has left an imprint in your heart that has you mentally and emotionally and maybe even spiritually connected to your husband. I said, ma'am, the best thing you can do is take the next year and a half off. Use this time to reset yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and financially. Those 5 areas of healing that I teach. Reset yourself and understand that though you're separated, the print is still there. And because the reason the print is still there is because you're still married. And because you are still married to him, mentally and emotionally, you can still feel his behavior and it still sticks with you. She thanked me for that advice. I said to her, I know it's hard in today's culture. I said, but if you would just go slow and take your time, you're going to heal right. And you're going to be fully prepared for the lucky man that's going to meet you in the future. I hope this made sense. If it did, type church in the comments with 3 R's. And then remember, you've got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you. What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Zeb. Listen, I've been dying to make this announcement for a very long time now, and I'm pleased to say that Inspire Nation has officially launched. Yes, we finally got a Facebook and YouTube community group where we're going to have exclusive content, exclusive shorts, exclusive discussion prompts, where we're going to engage with other people literally around the world who are on the same healing journey that we're on. I need you to go find these pages right now on Facebook and YouTube. Inspire Nation, follow the page, join the group, introduce yourself, and be prepared to link up with literally thousands of people around the world who are on the same healing journey, who are looking for the same resources, and who want to also be surrounded with other like-minded individuals who are growing in the same direction as you are. I'm so excited about this because it's the beginning of some great things I can't talk about right now. Listen, you got two jobs. One, be better today than what you were yesterday. And two, don't forget what I told you.